I'd like to call the meeting to order. Our first item is our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Vice Chair, could you read our mission statement?
The mission of the Marshall Public School District is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success.
Thank you. Moving on to our agenda, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any additions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. It is approved. Moving on to the consent agenda, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. It is approved. Moving on to our financials. I'll make a motion to approve the financials. Do we have a second?
Matt will second it.
It's open for discussion.
Just a couple of things to point out. There's a couple of bills to Brennan Construction on there. Those are a couple of the final for the safety grant, so we'll get reimbursement for those. And then there's one other payment, the payment to SMSU for the $159,371. That's the annual track and field payment per the agreement we have with the with SMSU.
Very good. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote, please. Is approved. Anything you'd like to bring up on the treasurer's report?
Just I added one thing on the general ledger balances. We typically show each month compared to the year before. I added previous months of the current year also. Sometimes things look a little up and down from the previous year, but that way you can see each month how things have transpired, whether it's gone up or not or down. So I just thought it was a nicer look in addition to each year, just to see the past 3 months comparison to the current month.
Very good. Thank you. Board forum, board members, anybody would like to bring up anything?
The Bond Oversight Committee will be meeting tomorrow. We continue to move forward with all the fun things with the new building and the addition.
Very good. Moving on to our administrator's report.
Excuse me, in Tiffany's report, and like I always say, I hope you had an opportunity to read through all of the reports, but just a couple things or maybe one thing from each report. Tiffany shared some insight that one of the positive outcomes from distance learning has been that the communication and trust between home or and school or teacher, so parents and teachers, is really good. Darcy shared that the 7-week student participation rate, involvement, engagement has remained steady, and that's good. From Westside, Eric's report, 93% completion rate on essential assignments. That's definitely a positive. Mary Kay's report, and among other things, This year not being able to have the fourth grade shadow day physically in the building. As those students come over to the middle school next year as fifth graders, they're planning for a virtual shadow day and be able to offer that to fourth grade students. Brian shared in his report that the high school was recognized for the second consecutive year by U.S. News and World Report as a top Minnesota high school. So that's exciting. In Amanda's report from Maytech, a nice section on kind of I think she called it senior spotlights. So you get to know the kids a little better, if you will, or recognize faces with names. And then she also shared that the numbers for the child care center have been increasing, and that's a positive. Bruce's report, he shared that spring activity fees are being processed or refunded or applied to next fall, should the student be coming back. Jeremy, in his report, shared, among other things, that summer programming is being discussed. As you are aware of, we just received last Thursday afternoon guidance from the Department of Education relative to summer planning. So we've started to review that and hope to have something early next week in terms of definitive direction. Jackie, in her report, shared that she is serving as a Minnesota Association of Special Education Administrators representative on the Commissioner of Education's Distance Learning Advisory Committee or group. And similar to summer programming or a part of summer programming, Jackie also shared in her report that the ESY, or extended school year planning, for special education students is being discussed. And then in my report, just a few things about the school closure in terms of updates. And then a reminder that on Tiger TV tomorrow at 7 p.m. is the high school honors convocation. And Wednesday at 7 p.m. is the Pride in the Tiger Foundation Senior Scholarship Banquet. Two important events that I would encourage you to watch. Dion.
Just a few things to point out in mine. Renewal rates, we had talked about those in some of the different board committees. We were actually able to get a 5.5% increase from the service co-op. They worked with us well, along with our representative NIS. Initially, we were supposed to get a 10.1% increase. So although we'd like a zero or a reduction, we were happy with that 5.5%. Aurora is working on our online benefit enrollment. It's called EASE. Actually have our open enrollment right now. We're trying to go as paperless as possible. We're getting a pretty good reception on that. There's about 400 employees, and I think she's had 150 of them that have gone in and completed the process. So she'll continue to do that. Like Sarah had pointed out, our construction projects are moving along nicely. I put in there a huge thank you to Darcy, Amanda, Laura, Nancy. We are fortunate to be able to start working in the office earlier than expected. So they moved out of the office into another room. And then also Cheryl Hoff and Emily Carroll both moved their rooms around, so they were able to work down in that wing down there also a little earlier. So really appreciate all the cooperation and patience everybody at Parkside's had. And then this is the non-certified negotiations year. And I've met once with the custodial group, our ASG, and our support staff group, meeting again with the support staff group again this week. Hopefully we can get things nailed down with them, and then hopefully the custodial group again next week. So we're working on those, and then I'll start working on the individual negotiations. And then the last thing on the second page of mine, I just put, and I know Scott sends you guys the weekly updates, and I just put it out there. So if any of the public goes in, they can see how things are coming along with our 2 construction projects. Even since that one from last week, or since that one was posted, they poured the footings, they poured the floorings at Parkside. So it's pretty exciting to see things moving along so well.
Very good. Any questions? Thank you, Dion. Is our school board students here?
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
For this distance student report, we asked the question, what has been your school's biggest accomplishment during the school year? The high school said our largest accomplishment is working with our students and staff to make distance learning happen.
And then the middle school said staff learned a great deal more about students and families because of distance learning. They were also convinced that parents and students learn much more about the teaching staff. But by far their technology was their biggest accomplishment, because without it, there wouldn't be any level of accomplishment in schooling.
And for Westside, they said the biggest accomplishment was turning the brick and mortar school into a distance learning model in a short time frame. And their attendance had a consistency of 96%, and almost 100% of their students checked in during meetings. 93% of their students completed assignments, and their teachers have worked really hard for their students. For Maytech, they said that they have overcome challenges that none of them were prepared for. Everyone that goes to their school has stepped out of their comfort zone and learned new technologies, ways to communicate, and experiment with new teaching and learning styles.
Very good.
I think
Excellent
that's it.
reports. Thank you. This is our first review of policies 618 through 620, 623 through 624. Were there any questions or comments? Moving on to our discussion items, the naming of the new elementary school.
Just an update, quick update for you. So pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, first and second grade parents and families were offered an opportunity to complete a survey about the potential name of the new elementary school, and then also staff members in grades 2, 3, and 4 completed the same survey. There were 3 sort of pre-selected names that the Bond Oversight Committee wanted to put on the preliminary survey. Those 3 were Southwest Elementary School, Tiger Elementary School, and Southview Elementary School. Out of those 3, Southview Elementary School has received the highest ranking, or the most number of first choice votes. Tiger Elementary School is second, and Southwest Elementary is third. I will talk about next steps at the Bond Oversight Committee meeting tomorrow and see what the BOC wishes to do. Mr. Swope, you're only allowed to vote 1 time for yourself on the survey. Just wanted to clarify that. So.
Didn't come from me.
Very good. Moving on to our action items, approval of the interim superintendent contract. Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's open for discussion. Hearing no discussion, we'll call for a vote. Is approved. Our next action item is approval of the resolution relating to the termination and non-renewal of a contract. Motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's open for discussion. Hearing none, we'll vote. It is approved. Our next action item is approval of memorandum of understanding addressing the alternative teachers' performance pay for the Marshall Education Association. Do we have a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
It's open for discussion. Hearing no discussion, we'll call for a vote. It is approved. Moving on to the next action item is West Side Elementary School Real Estate Purchase Agreement. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And need a second.
Second?
It's open for discussion.
I just have a question. Maybe Dion can answer it. We talked about using the safety and security stuff in the new school from West Side. Is that part of the agreement, or is that just understood, or?
I'd have to double check, but it is understood that there's certain things that we'll be taking possession of prior to the closing date.
Okay. That's all I wanted.
Any other questions?
I was just going to touch on a couple of things. Just maybe you guys have all had a read through it, but so our closing date on West Side would be September 1st, 2021. We did put a contingency in there that for some reason, if the construction were to take longer and we weren't able to move out of there, we'd have 90 days past that to use the building without terminating the contract. If we have to go longer than that, we can renegotiate with MAAC. Basically 10 days after the closing date is when they'll be able to start the mitigation. We do have a date in there of December 31st of when we would like to have the buyer will have it demolished and the debris removed. If for some reason that's delayed, not because of weather but because of other things, we do have something in there that says we may or can deduct $10,000 from the payment each month that it's delayed. We just wanted something so it wasn't delayed or taken too long unless it's out of their control. So.
Very good. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. It is approved. Approval of Hoffman and Bros financial year 2020 audit services. Motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Just wanted to point out the increase from last year is only $500 more, which is less than a 2% increase. And I did discuss a little bit with Lisa. We were going to try to go out for an RFP on the audit this year, but with some of the movements going on and everything else going on, just didn't think it was the right year to go through that with the possibilities of switching audit firms if that came about. So we are doing a 1-year agreement for this year.
Very good. Questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Is approved. Thank you, board members. Meeting's over.